If a school system or a school has any inclination that maybe their climate is not as positive as they would like it to be, SDP is a process, it's a framework that can enhance any type of building, any type of grade level. It's not an elementary program, it's not a middle school program, it's not a high school program. It's a program on how you work with people, build relationships with integrity, and work through processes, and just it really encourages the professionalism and the professional growth. That's the one thing that I would like to say about SDP is it has grown so many professional leaders in this building, and as an administrator, I think that's very exciting. Anytime you can have teachers that feel empowered to be leaders in a building makes my job easier, but more importantly, they have self-esteem, and they carry themselves with professionalism, and they have self-confidence. And education is a hard business, and sometimes you need a little pat on the back, and we don't always do that. And if you've gone through the process, you have that within yourself that you are a professional, and that we can work through a process and solve any problems. I'm just very glad that we were able to do such mass training on the front end, because I really do think that makes all the difference, because other initiatives that we've done, you don't have the money to do, and it's not that it's not a great initiative, but you just don't have the time to work through the process. And as educators, we don't always take time to do that. We think we've got to concern ourselves with what we're teaching, and granted the curriculum is important, but having some time for self-reflection and to process information and to think, how would that look in my classroom, and being very descriptive about how's that going to look in my classroom is just something that we never had the opportunity to do prior to SDP, but now it's what we do. So regardless of what initiative it is, we're going to think through this process now, and it's going to be so much more powerful for us. We knew that one of our issues was our climate, and so therefore it really provided us with an idea of how we could improve our climate in all kinds of areas. Well, we had a lot of turnover as far as administration, as far as teachers, so we didn't have a common thread. We had kind of felt like a foster family. Mom and Daddy leave, and what are we supposed to do, kind of thing. So that helped us realize that we needed some help to maintain a staff. We didn't have staff members that understood how to deal with students. Classroom management was a real issue with a lot of our staff members that came and went. So this process enabled us to understand the whole child. We better understood child development. We looked at the children developmentally, the whole child. We deal with poverty children, so there are always potential issues there. So it helped us deal in the whole gambit of the child and the community, as opposed to just thinking they were brains on a stick. We had a comprehensive school reform grant, which was an opportunity to have funding that a school wouldn't normally have. Unfortunately, you qualify for that because your test scores are not very good, so that's how you get the money. But the money enabled us to send almost all of our staff to Yale, which was a great experience. The professional development, the quality is just unbelievable. The professionalism, the ability to think about back home planning and training is just an opportunity that teachers never have time when they're in a building. They're always thinking about what they need to be doing for the school, the students, or their families. So it enabled us to have some time just to sit back and process the information. It also has provided us with the opportunity to bring some top quality technical assistance providers like Jan Stokolinsky and Jeff German, Camille, and they were able to help us in our building see what our building was and actually tell us ideas that might enhance things that we would do in our building. So both of those pieces together enabled us to have a very high quality staff development for everyone. Our custodians were involved in the front end of our cafeteria was involved in the front end, so everybody heard the same thing and felt a part of it. And that's something that, as schools, we don't normally have time or funding for, and we had both with that grant. School development program has made all the difference in the climate. We've been able to work through processes and understand better how to serve all gamuts that are within a school, how we serve our students, how we serve each other as colleagues, how do we work with each other, how do we work with parents and assist parents in services, even within the community, maybe even going into churches and those kinds of things, and talking about what the school development program has done for us, and actually having Dr. Comer here and inviting people to come in. So it's just really enabled our community to have some ownership in what goes on in the building, but also kind of a sense of pride that we really have been able to take advantage of an opportunity that most people in education would never have an opportunity to take advantage of. When we first got into Comer, the process was, we just learned different parts of that. But when we actually had Carol Ray, which is a colleague from Asheville City, come and talk to our staff on a Saturday morning, can you imagine a school with teachers, cafeteria, and custodians in a school on a Saturday morning for training? And she talked a whole lot about her school, showed us all kinds of pictures, and shared just real personal information about what her teachers had been doing with Comer. The next week, we saw evidence of Comerization occurring, doors, bulletin boards, vocabulary, helping students realize how to use that vocabulary. Just really made a large impact. And then as we had more and more people trained and more technical assistant people come in, it just enabled us just to grow more and more. So we were able to make it our own and talk about what does that look like for South Lexington. And that's one thing I think is important for people to realize. You have to make it what your school wants, what your school's looking for. And that was one thing that we were able to do, was look at what we wanted and implement it into what we felt was important for our community. First began by teaching the students about the developmental pathways. We talked about each one. We talked about different kinds of symbols and what that meant to them as far as a person, and how they could work on their different pathways, their physical pathway, their ethical pathway. And then we began working with lesson plan development. Our developmental pathways really helped us understand that it improved in student engagement. You may come into classrooms at sometimes in schools where you see heads down and those kinds of things. Students were really not paying attention, but our students are really engaged in the lesson. And one of those things that really impacts for elementary is the physical pathway. You can't expect a 5-year-old to sit for a 30, 45-minute lesson and expect their engagement to be high. So that really helped us an enormous amount to realize that. Our student achievement has increased each year. We are steadily growing. We are not where we want to be at this point yet, but we have definitely shown growth each year, and we really feel like there are various reasons of that. We feel like the climate is a very positive climate. It's a learning community of students and teachers and families. We also feel like with the collaboration that we work together better, trying to meet the needs of all of our students. We serve a very diverse population, very diverse learners. It's not a situation where one teacher can teach 20 kids and fix all the needs of that child. So everyone takes an active role in that. And I think that's really helped us try to meet those needs, but our achievement has increased. Once we went through SDP and really worked through that, and we had the opportunity to present to some schools, had the opportunity to present to our school board on a couple occasions, I think they began to see the climate change. They saw adults that were very excited. They saw people that cared about, really cared about the education of the children, and began to see achievement increase, began to hear the discussions in the community to be positive. They realized that our students seemed to have a little bit more of a polished professionalism. I think they really began to think, this is something that all of our kids would benefit from.